Well, hello there. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on Farm Kenya Show right here on KTN. My name is Kelvin Nyakundi. Now, today we'll be talking about a very interesting and, of course, a popular topic. We'll be looking at dairy farming, which remains one of the most important agricultural enterprises in Kenya, providing livelihoods to millions of smallholder farmers and contributing significantly to the Kenyan economy. And I believe you can attest to that. Yet, despite its potential, many farmers are still grappling with the high production costs, animal diseases, and also poor hygiene, low milk prices, and limited access to quality feeds for their livestock. No, so what can be done to make dairy farming more profitable and sustainable for smallholder farmers? Today on Farm Kenya, we explore these practical solutions, and we'll be looking at different ways in which we can transform this to make Kenya's dairy sector an easier way and also a profitable one. And joining us is Maina Karuiru, who is the National Project Coordinator for Dairy Development at UNIDO, and UNIDO is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Will be having this conversation with us, and he'll be helping us to unpack how farmers can boost productivity and also improve milk quality and earn themselves more, especially the better income for their efforts that they put in every day. So, Maina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, let's get right into the conversation and look at the different ways in which farmers can do this. And with your expertise at UNIDO, when you look at the problem with dairy farmers in Kenya at this particular juncture or at this particular stage, what is really ailing the dairy farmer?
Thank you. Let me just start by explaining the role of what we are doing. We are supporting Githunguri Dairy Cooperative Society, and the aim is that we want to help them increase milk yields so that farmers can make more money. The project is funded by the Embassy of Sweden, and of course we have partners with Tetra Pak and UNIDO being the implementer. Now, coming back to what you have said, for sure farmers need to make more money. Mainly in dairy value chain and all other dairy value chains, all other value chains, but the most important thing is that there are challenges that farmers are going through. And one of those challenges that they are going through is because, first and foremost, issues on feed. Sometimes the quality of feed is not good, which means you buy, and then when you feed your cows, still there is no increase in milk. Then, of course, there is the diseases that we all know that come from time to time, especially mastitis, where, mastitis is a really big problem, because then when you're affected by that, the cow is affected by that, then what happens? You cannot sell the milk to the processor or anybody else. And also there's a big issue of breeding, in the fact that farmers will go look for AI services, and when they get them and they serve their animal, then it doesn't conceive. Maybe they have to do it again and again, and you realize that now it's an extra cost. So there are a number of issues that come together, and what we do know for now, and it's the government's also programs and their ambition that they want to double the milk yields by 2030. Right now we are doing about 2.5 billion liters, and by 2030 the aim is to have double that, which is 10 billion liters. 10 billion liters, and that would mean that when we get to that level, there will be opportunities across the whole value chain regarding all the aspects of dairy value chain. Many people think of dairy like just milking and taking the milk to the cooperative, but there are so many other things that needs to be done. There is the way the cows are taken care of, the barns where the cows stay, in terms of hygiene, and also in terms of feeding, water, and all the wellness that requires for our animals that give us milk, to give us enough milk for us to be able to increase the yields for farmers.
Okay. Yeah. Right, Maina, we'll continue with this particular conversation, but before we continue with it, we're going to hear from farmers in different parts of the country who are finding their own ways to make dairy farming work for them, from managing feed costs to also improving hygiene, what you've spoken about, and also animal health. Now, these farmers, together with a veterinarian, share some of the practical solutions they've adopted to keep their herds productive. Let's look at that.
Mambo kuhusu usafi ni kitu muhimu sana kwa ng'ombe. Juu number one, ukiweka ng'ombe akiwa msafi, hata yeye anasikia comfortable. Na alafu unamuondolea magonjwa mingi kama zile za foot rot, na ng'ombe kukaa kama kuna pneumonia juu ya kushika ile baridi kutoka miguu. Namba pili, hawa ng'ombe tunataka kuweka vizuri ili waweze kutuweka vizuri. That's why hata mahali ya kulala unaona tumeweka soda. Tulikuwa tunatandika zile mattress, lakini baadaye tukakuwa na mashida mingi ya kuwa na vidoda hapa na hapa. Sasa hizo vidoda kupona ni ngumu sana, juu unaona hata ukitibu jioni analala anajikwaliza, kidoda inarudi. Huku nayo hapa tumekoroga na simiti na ballast, alafu kila asubuhi tunaosha na mchana tunafagia, jioni tunaosha. Wakati tumeosha vizuri, tunamwaga magadi soda, na kama saa hii unaona mkonyi wengi, lazima tuoshe na ile inaitwa Formalin. Tunamwaga huku chini na huwa bakteria zote.
We start with the feeding records. Right from ndama akiwa mdogo, kuna venye tuna feed. We do indicate the number of liters. Those 3 months atakuwa na kunywa maziwa. Tutakuwa tumeindicate tumia kiasi gani. Because if you are to budget, tufanyie budget, tutaweza kutrack using what the animals have been consuming. We have the records za health. Once veterinary anakuja, we want to know huyu ng'ombe ni hasara ama ni faida kwetu. The number of times veterinary amekuja na amekuja kufanya nini kwa hiyo ng'ombe. Then we have now the production records. Huyu ng'ombe anatutolea maziwa gani? Now for the productive animals, tunakamua lita ngapi? Then tukikuja kwa feeding records, chakula hii maziwa ile food tumempatia inaturiproketia ikifika kwa production. Then ikifika kwa records, sometimes we do them manually, and now we have some gadgets we use for the online. It's a certain application yenye unaweza eka your details, then tukiswitch now ikifika wakati wa kuserve, when we are using the artificial insemination, nowadays we have now inaweza patiwa manually and all ikuwe registered online. Kuna technology imekuja for the artificial insemination, wanatusavia wana indicate online.
Kulingana na production, if a cow is producing 30 liters in a day, anafaa ile maziwa ukiuza, that's 1500, anafaa kuconsume 40% of that amount. So si tuseme, of course vile unaona ng'ombe ni wakubwa, kuna wengine utaona ni mkubwa, he's a higher producer, hafai kuconsume the same amount na wale wadogo, lakini sasa naye production yake bado. Kwa hizo the concentrates, acha tuziite concentrates, hizo sasa ni unga, hizo supplements zenye unauliza, chumvi, hizo vitu tunazisource kutoka kwa the agrovets. But kama sisi tumekuja kuinvent a good formula ya kutengeneza, we have our own formula ya kutengeneza dairy meal. Nilikwambia hii ni kilimo biashara na we are after profit. So tukitengeneza our own dairy meal, tuko na ile formula yenye tunatumia, tunapata inakuwa much cheaper.
For me it was a bittersweet moment because, and I think so many people do this mistake of, you go to someone with a cow and then they start giving you the narrative of this cow gives, if you have this cow and it gives you 20 liters in a day and you sell that milk by 50 shillings, that is 1,000 shillings in a day. What if you have 10? That's 10,000 shillings in a day. And you start looking at the math without really knowing what you're going into. And then now you go into it and you realize it is not that. So unfortunately, I would say in our country, there are so many people that are taking advantage of other people when it comes to dairy farming. And here at Freedom Farm, we are trying to change that myth. We are trying to have better records, health records, production records. We don't sell any problematic cows, because that's another thing, that you go somewhere to another farm, you find that people are disposing their animals, but you don't really know why. And so we started with that narrative of this is the amount of money you can make. And in the first year, we really struggled because you start realizing getting even that 20 liters of milk is not something easy. And so for us, when people come here to do farm visits, we don't tell them what they're supposed to do. We tell them what we did, and we give them our story, and we tell them now to form their own formula and formulate their own formula and move from there. Because we would go to another farm, you see the cows are this way, you become frustrated, you go and try it at your own, it never works, you come back, you do this. There's another farmer in Ngong, whom I know, he goes to JKIA every day and collects rose petals and feeds his cows.
The most important thing we say about any time that you're feeding dairy cows is that you have to remember you're feeding it for 4 things. So the first thing is survival. The second thing is going to be production. The third thing is reproduction. And the fourth thing is for reserves. So in that order given, you have to put that in mind, that I have to survive to be able to give you milk. I will give you milk before I actually give you another generation of calves. And before I start looking healthy by having reserves, I have to do all these other things. So with that into consideration, there are 3 things that are important in feeding a dairy cow. So the first thing you start with is fodder. That is very critical in any dairy enterprise. So it accounts for about 70% of what you will feed your animals. So when we're looking at fodder, we're talking about things like Napier grass, we're talking about good quality silage, we're talking about things like Lucerne. So that accounts to 70% of your feeding. And from that 70%, any good dairy cow will give you comfortably 5 liters of milk. To now come in and take you from that 5 liters to the 30 liters or the 40 liters that you want. And how do we do that? We take care of the 30%. And 29% of that is from our concentrates. So that is where we bring in the dairy meal. So the 29% will be the dairy meal, then the 1% now will be the most important but looks very insignificant, which is the mineral leaks. So the 29% on the dairy meal, depending on what we want to take you to that level of from 5 liters to the next level. So in that, we advise a farmer from the output of your milk that you want, there's a formula to advise you on the quantity of dairy meal that you give to your cow on a daily basis.
All right, now we continue with our conversation. And remember, we are talking to Maina Kariru, who is the National Project Coordinator for Dairy Development at UNIDO. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, so we continue with the conversation from what we've seen on air and the story that has just played. When you look at practical steps that smallholder farmers can use in order for them to increase their milk production, from what you've seen, what does this say to the farmer?
Let me just start by explaining first the project we are doing is called Pathway to Profitable Dairy Farming, the one we are doing with the cooperative in Githunguri. And what we are seeing here is basically what many small-scale farmers face. One of the problems, like now, for example, in Kiambu County, where you know that large size is very small, is that they are not able to plant their own fodder or get, they are not able to plant fodder and the types of fodders they'd want to do because of nutrition aspects, because the large size is very small. That is number one. And secondly, most farmers are always struggling. You've heard about hygiene. Hygiene is critical because if you don't get the right feeds of fodder, then what happens, you get what we call aflatoxin. Aflatoxin is something that is not supposed to be in milk, and there are some levels that they are too high. It's hygiene related. If you are not able to milk cleanly, then you have issues with mastitis. If you're not able to vaccinate your animals, then you have problems. So the thing is, farmers want to increase the milk yield, but unfortunately, there are constraints, and those are the part of the constraints that we've been looking at for the last 5 months, and I'll be happy to speak about them. One of them is that if you look broadly, milk, people think it's only the commercial aspect. There's a huge nutrition aspect, especially for children. And within the value chain, people only talk about the farmers themselves. But there are so many people involved, those who transport the feeds, those who look for hay, those who look for fodder, and all those other integrated services on vet. animal good health, and all those other interrelated aspects that bring in a lot of value. So from what we have seen in the cooperative that you're working with, Githunguri Dairy Cooperative, we've seen that they have had some challenges. And one of the challenges was, because it's a cooperative, is that they didn't have enough extension officers. One extension officer was handling 700 farmers, which is practically impossible. So the project was able to support by recruiting another 19 extension officers, and that brought down the ratio from 700 to 350. But the ideal one is 200. So what we are seeing is greater reach to meet the farmers and talk to them, and then also ensure that the extension officers are well trained. Actually, we've done two very important trainings. One of them is what you call Luminate, is a training that is used using computers to help farmers formulate feeds with the right nutrition at the farm level. So the extension officer will go to that lady who we have seen there, and she's told you can do this with a machine, and can even be able to measure the percentages of whatever it is. And then the other thing which is very important as well that we have seen is that when it comes to diseases, it's very important, because diseases sometimes can cause a lot of problems to farmers in terms of rejection of milk, in terms of bad health for animals. So what happens is that within the cooperative, there is a vet department that works with the extension officers to ensure that they can be able to reach all those farmers who are supplying the cooperative, and also to reduce the losses that could be incurred. And the majority of farmers, let's be honest with ourselves, they're about 60, 65 years, our parents. So what happens is that we have young people who've gone to school, who've got the skills, but they don't have an opportunity. And what we are trying to do as a project is to integrate the young people, the youth, and the women, and all those who could be having disabilities, so that all of them can be able to learn from what we are doing and help them eventually to increase the milk yields.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And now I think let's come back and look at how important breeding and proper cow genetics are adding into this, and also how can farmers access this? Because breeding also helps in production, because you're speaking about improving the production of milk.
True.
Yes, so speak about the breeding.
When you come to breeding, if you look at the countrywide, many farmers have different kind of breeds. So like in Githunguri, where we are working together, they have the Holstein, or what you call the Frisian. Others will do Archer, others will do Jersey, and all sorts of breeds. So for many farmers, their most important thing is volume increase in milk. That is the most important thing, because in the end, then they want to get extra money. But however, having said that, is that you have to look at who then comes to do the AI services, because you're talking of genetic improvements. Of course, the government as well has subsidized a lot of AI, services to the farmers, and also some cooperatives do. But that is not automatic that you serve a cow today and then it conceives. No, sometimes you have to do it 2-3 times. And when the farmer pays twice, 3 times and says, why not? Why should I do it? So there is still an opportunity to get it better, especially for increasing awareness, because most of the times you'll find that farmers do what they see their neighbors doing. Mm-hmm. It might not be correct. You've heard somebody saying they correct petals from the airport. I'm not sure what for what, but at the end of the day, you have to think around it. Does it bring value? Because the value is increased milk yield, and probably even getting your genetics improved. So most of cooperatives, especially the one we are working with Githunguri, they import their they import the AI and the semen and all sort of things, and that they help them to control the value chain from coming into the country all the way to serving Mama Wanjiku at our house. So the cooperative subsidize that. I think they charge 100 less.
All right, all right. Please, let's just come back to and speak about the importance of, because we're trying to tell farmers what they need to do.
Yes.
Now, let's look at milk.
Yes.
When it comes to, because you had mentioned earlier about the impurities that get to the milk
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
spoil the milk.
Yes, yes.
Now, when it also comes to how to store the milk, when it comes to maybe farmers in different regions,
True.
maybe some might not have access
Yes.
to how to store the milk in order for it to be good for consumption. So what are some of the ways in which farmers can also make sure that at least at the end of the day, their quality, the quality of their milk is good, and also the storage is up to par with maybe areas where you find the coolers, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's a huge problem because milk, once it has been milked, it should be delivered to a cooling tank or a cooling facility within a very short period. But sometimes in villages it doesn't happen. Maybe you are 10 kilometers away, 15 kilometers away, and you find by the time all our milk is corrected and then put together into the cooling tank, most of it probably will have gone bad. And that is a huge problem. And one of the things that we are seeing is that when you start losing milk continuously, you give up. There are areas in this country where the roads and road network is better, but ideally what should happen, especially for cooperatives, they would have a cooling tank where they are going to put the milk, awaiting transportation by probably the processors trucks, which are cooled, so that it can go to the factory. But there is still a huge part on that, because if you look at the milk that you milked 15 liters and it has been rejected because of maybe increasing bacteria, and you multiply countrywide how it works, you might find that there is a huge volume of milk that goes to waste. Yet the farmer has fed, has given the right animal husbandry, he has given anything that is required, but that is not working. So that is one actually a huge challenge, and one of the things that we are doing as a project is to support the cooperative, one, to get cooling tanks where they can store milk temporarily, so that then it is taken to the factory for processing. And then the third part of it is this. If you look at the volume of milk, for example, you cannot take only 2.5 liters and you wait for a 10,000 liter tank to come. So you need to have a number of number of people together who stay around neighbors that they can be able to put that milk together so that it makes sense even for the transport. So those are some of the dynamics. And I was seeing the other day, I think in Rift Valley, I saw a truck stuck because the roads are bad. So that's a huge challenge, but it is not insurmountable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maina, I just have to stop you right there as we go for a short break. When you come back, we'll still be continuing this conversation, so don't go too far. All right, now we continue with the conversation with Maina. All right, Maina, now we've seen, of course, the commodity prices. We've looked at different areas in Kenya. Now, when we look at prices of milk, how can farmers get better prices for their milk and reduce exploitation along the value chain?
I think one of the most important things would be to increase formalization of milk from, we know that from, information that is validated, about 65-70% is informal. And that is where problems come in terms of even those, you would call them brokers or whatever you want to call them, that they would take the milk to the farmers at a very low price and then go and flip it to others in a higher price. And of course, the issues on safety. But I think the most important thing is for farmers to actually, for them to be able to increase the value of their milk, they should first and foremost try to have within the cooperative, especially in this country, because you have a lot of cooperatives, that the work of cooperatives is to disseminate information that will be of value to farmers. For example, when there is, give an example, when there is mass vaccination by the government, it goes through counties, and then the counties get in touch with cooperatives and all that. So whenever farmers can get that information, it is going to help them reduce some of those losses. And secondly, there are trainings that farmers need to know, actually, especially even milking itself. When you're not using machine milking, you're using hand milking, there is a lot of issues on hygiene, and that's the one that leads to increased bacterial loads and also aflatoxin and all those sort of things. So I think there should be, in my opinion, a countrywide, actually, rollout of dissemination on the key things that farmers are facing. Okay. And the other thing around it is that farmers, most of them, do not keep records. The basic records, how much milk did you, and I've heard that somebody saying we record. Many don't. So if you don't record how much milk you're selling, then you might never know whether you are making money. Mm-hmm. So that now becomes a big talking point, because farmers will say, I've been doing dairy farming for 20 years. I know it with my hand. But that cannot work. So they need something that they can check. This month, this is the kind of kilos I got, and this and that. And then you can check, what did I do better, or what did I not do well. So I think that is really important.
All right. Thank you for that. And now, when you look at opportunities, what opportunities exist for value addition, especially when you look at yogurt, cheese, and ghee for farmers, and even for cooperatives looking to scale their income? What opportunities are there?
I think they're huge. They're huge. Number one, we have a very elite young people who have digital skills. But you find in many homes, the father and the mother in their 60s, they cannot allow their children to learn the business. What they are doing with 20 hours, the kids will do it with 1 hour. So that is the problem we are having. You find that now they get disillusioned because they are not being given opportunities to do that. Mm-hmm. And that can be flipped back and tell our children, can you now take this over? You can do more digitization, you can be able to talk to AIs and all that. That is very important. And also don't forget that the value chain itself, of the milk value chain, has so many opportunities for job creation. Then number three, and this is really important, because the value addition capacity is underutilized. Today, the Middle East is looking for milk. Some countries in West Africa, Senegal and others, they are looking for milk. And we have an opportunity to exploit the export market. And it's huge. Because when you do that, then what will happen is that every person involved in the value chain will feel the benefit of that. Then there is the other opportunity, that there is a project that is being supported by the World Bank through all the 48 counties. And one of the things that they are doing to cooperatives is supporting vaccination. They're also supporting giving cooling tanks where they can hold the milk awaiting for transportation, and also extension services at some point with the county level. Mm-hmm. So that information, when it goes out there, then it helps everybody to get to know what is there. And the other big opportunity is that if you look at it, there is an opportunity. Remember those days we were doing milk in primary school, Nyayo milk. You remember?
Yes.
If you're old enough. So those days.
I tested.
And those, there are huge opportunities where in this country that those kind of things could really increase the consumption. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at the young people, I think they're about 15, 20 million, all those in high schools and all that. And then the other big opportunity is that if you look at the whole value chain, there are so many other support acts. For example, you could say, I'm the one who, or you decide your niche will be just to work on AI. Then miner could stay and say, no, mine will be logistics, the most efficient logistic to make sure that the milk doesn't get bad before it goes to the cooperative. And then there is the other big niche. You see, there is like many parts of Kenya, apart from Rift Valley and I think Narok, where there is a lot of fodder. You could now start saying, I can be able to become the conduit to get the fodder and bring it where it's needed. And that creates a lot of opportunities. And don't forget that when these animals, they calve down, especially when they get a female, you find that you can buy one at 250,000. 3 months, 4 months old, or whatever it is. So there are huge opportunities for that. But I think more importantly is to ensure we could be able to let that information get known to all those who are in that value chain.
All right. You've mentioned, before you finished your point, you mentioned about heifers,
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
So heifers, of course, are cows. They are cows, right? You can give us a little bit about heifers and what they add into this farming, this type of farming, because you know when you speak about milk production or milk farming, we're not only speaking about milk. We also need to look at this other side where we have the heifers. So give us a little bit about the heifers and what you think about their price in the market. And if they're fair, because they're usually very expensive. Yeah, so you can give us a little bit about that, because I believe this is also another part of the farming that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, you know, heifers is, you know, you get, when the cow is served, of course, it will calve down. It could either get a female or a male. And most farmers will be happy when they get a female, because quickly after a year or two it will be served and it's going to start giving milk. And when you get a male, then what happens is that they don't keep it for long, because it doesn't have a lot of values unless those people want to raise bulls for meat and all that. So what happens is that when you do the right breeds and the right genetics and you take care of the health of the animal, you are going to get a quality calf. And that is the ones that are going up to 300,000-400,000 today. But why are you going to pay 400,000? Because there is value. You find the mother is probably giving 40 liters of milk or 35 liters of milk. So then you do your mathematics and say, oh, in about 5 years, then this cow will have given me a return. And the thing is, many people think that it's really expensive, but we don't look at the benefits that accrue when you try to get the right breed and all that. And it's not easy. Sometimes you find people are booking a year in advance, waiting, and you pay. So there is inherent value that they are seeing, and I think that is a differentiator, because there are so many people in villages, and you see they are just doing even the local AI and using bulls and all that and all that. But the point is, it's the value proposition that is creating the opportunity. And even some places you wait for 2 years and you've paid. So when you look at that, it tells you there is huge opportunities. It's a huge market. And that is what we need to continue exploiting, not just for the in-calf heifers and all that, but through the whole opportunities that accrue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's very well explained, especially when it comes to the heifer. So that is another business that
that's another revenue income straight away.
Yes.
Straight away. One person told me a couple of weeks they went to Nairobi show, I think in September, with a calf which was, I think, 9 months, 245,000. Snapped like that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. That is also another venture.
That's another revenue income earning from the same data value chain.
All right. Let's move on. You had mentioned about AI. Of course, you've been mentioning it. And I believe it's one of the biggest things that are transforming this kind of farming. So when you look at the role of AI and technology and the innovations that are coming up with this, How are you foreseeing it, adding especially to dairy farming even going forward?
I think it's phenomenal because, number one, before, if you remember 15, 20 years, you'd wait for a bull that is serving the whole village before it comes to your place. That is 4 months down the line.
Yes.
And you don't know whether there are genetic diseases with it. So today, they now advanced that they have the semen in actually like in a freezer. So they do the vials and they can go and serve immediately. And now the AIs have been trained on heat detection and things like that. So it has become very, very efficient. However, what the challenge is that within the AI, farmers decide, I want you to come to my farm. The other one decides, I want you to come. So some might do it well, some might not do it well, but at least there's a huge, huge improvement. Huge. And the young people who are serving there, they are the young people now who are doing, we call them AI techs. Quickly you call them, they know by the way, if in many parts, like in Kiambu, you go to look for AI tech, you have to wait for several days. Because they are busy. So that's another revenue generation and job creation and all that associated with the facilities and issues that they work on. And it's improving even better. Yeah, it's improving even better because now after serving, they have something like a probe that can check whether it's successful.
All right.
Yeah. So then that creates jobs, it creates for opportunities and gives people hope, you know.
All right, instead of waiting for one bull to serve the
Which
whole village.
might have some genetic problems. And then you create a big problem. So this one solves that problem very quickly. And you find most of them pay about 100 or 150. So that makes it easier for the farmer to afford that.
All right. That is the, of course, role of AI and technology going forward and what it's bringing.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at climate change and its effects. Because climate change, we cannot bypass it. Because it affects feeds, it affects water, it also affects animal health.
True.
So when you look at how farmers, what practices farmers can do in order for them to remain productive the rest of the year, from where you sit, what do you think farmers can do? Because now climate change comes, or the weather patterns change, and it affects the hay, it affects water.
Yes. Like now, to give you an example, now it's 17th of November. It should be raining right, left, and center. There's no rain at all.
Yes.
And it's short rains, which we get from October all the way to end of December. It hasn't rained for about 5-6 days or a week or 2 weeks. So what actually, the climate change issues are huge. Number one, you must realize that when it rains, it's pouring like crazy. When it's dry, literally, there is no water. So we must first and foremost understand that there will be cycles, even though they are getting worse, and we have to start learning about harvesting water. If you have, I give you an example, if you have a mabati house of 2 rooms, to put a gutter like this, a plastic gutter, it will cost you like 15,000. And if you buy a tank of 5,000, 2 good lanes fills the tank. Clean water, safe water, both for the family and the animals. So that we must do a lot more. This country, we are not doing water harvesting. You drive around, you will see so many houses, no gutter at all. So that is one part. The second part is we have to start thinking around which kind of feeds and fodder do we grow based on our regions. What you grow in Northeastern is not what you grow in Nyeri, because of the temperatures and all that. So we have to go indigenous seeds, if you like, that can fit in most of all those. I think in Kenya almost everybody has a cow or 2. So that is very important. And then third, we must look back that there are times there will be good times when there's a lot of rain, there's fodder, there's everything else. We might now start thinking, do we need to do silage? So that we can do silage and keep it sealed, that you can use all over maybe 5-6 months, and you're not going to have that kind of problems. And then the other opportunity that is huge with climate change is that we have retro control. But of course we can do trees, we can do all those other things. But what we really need to think around is how do we come even as communities to mitigate? Because it's you alone, Maina alone, and the other. So you find that the issues of climate change now, even excess heat, might affect even the bodies of animals, even ourselves. Sometimes you can't even sleep when things are too hot. So we need to look at beyond the normal narrative and think beyond the box.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Now, you had mentioned about different areas.
Yes.
What is grown in northeastern is
Yes.
not what is will
Yes.
be grown either in Nyeri or in the tropics.
True.
Now, when it comes to the awareness to farmers and how they can grow the right, of course, the right vegetation
Yes,
that
yes,
can
yes.
support their
Yeah, the fodders,
livestock,
yes.
and the fodders, the hay, and everything else. What do you think about the awareness? Is it really out there the way it's supposed to be? Because you find that someone is in the village or whatever place they are, and what they've been growing for the longest time is what they believe in.
Yes.
Because now, over maybe a couple of months this year, you see some communities in the northeastern region trying to now get into the crops that are grown on this other side.
Yes.
So what does this indicate, especially in terms of awareness to different farmers and various farmers from different regions?
There is a huge gap. I tell you this, for example, many farmers in the villages do Napier grass. But if you let it overgrow, it's waste, because all the nutrients are gone. It has to be chopped at the right stage of growth. Many farmers don't know that. But also I go back to counties, because we are devolved. Counties now run hospitals, they do AI, they do all sorts of things. I think there should be first a nationwide kind of awareness, and two, the counties should really focus a lot more on the issues of climate change. Because we always talk about it, but the impact now is hitting all of us. And the counties, because they are within where the people are, it's very easy for them to disseminate that very quickly. Or collectively, the 47 of them, they could say we could roll out a massive campaign awareness, so that everybody is aware, because this thing is not something that will go tomorrow. Actually, in any case, it will get worse. So we have to start preparing even the next generation. Today, you plant some seeds, because of the extreme heat, you get 10% germination. Yeah, and the other aspect is that when it is too hot, people even can't walk. So we really need massive awareness on climate change and tell people it is real. And a few things that can be done is there is rainwater harvesting. That is very critical. Indigenous seeds that people are used to in their areas, and of course, more important, to have, like these local radio stations. They can disseminate in the local languages all those things that might help to mitigate that. But water harvesting in this country, if we do it right, I think issues on water will be not a problem.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you also for that. Now, as we edge closer, now let me ask you this. When you look at what you've said, we've spoken about very many things today.
Yes.
When all is said and done, when you look at dairy farming, is it a worthwhile? And how, especially, can it be made interesting for the youth, for the younger generation, going forward? Because we are in an AI type of.
Yes.
We used to say digital, but these days it's AI.
It
has moved to AI.
Yeah.
So, and remember also, it's capital intensive.
It is.
Especially for the youth, because for the youth, you tell them the amounts of money that we've been mentioning here. Yes. So how do we make it interesting, and also for the youth now to embrace it?
I think first there is a huge opportunity. Many people talk about, making it sexy in terms of the digital tools and all that. These are guys, what I can do for 3 hours, they can do in 10 minutes. What we need to do is to empower the youth, but not Minor or John or Peter. We bring them together, empower them, and allow them to practice. That is very important. If you look at the logistics of milk collection alone, these young people can do it and do it properly and quickly. Secondly, you look at the youth, they have ideas, but they have nowhere to implement. As parents, we have to change our thinking and allow our children to implement. Because if we don't, when you are 70, 80, you can't do it. But then the most important thing as well is that there is a lot of value across the whole value chain, and you pick which segment you would want to run away with.
Okay.
Yeah, and on top of that, remember, we can add 1 million jobs. That is what everybody would be happy about. And then we continue growing.
All right, Maina, I just have to stop you right there. I believe you've made your point when it comes to that. At the end of the day, choose what works for you. Different value, the different value chains that we have. All right. We've come to the end of this edition of Farm Kenya. Today we were speaking about how dairy farming can be improved in Kenya, and we're joined by Maina Kariru. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Kelvin Nyakundi. Keep it KTN.